The people who leave the quietest are usually the ones who hit their limit the hardest. You are at a gathering with people you actually like. You are still smiling, still nodding, still saying the right thing at the right moment. Then something changes fast. Your body gets heavy before your mood does. The room feels louder without getting louder. Someone says, "Don't go yet," and instead of sounding warm, it lands like pressure. So you do the thing people always misread. You wait for a break, grab your things, and slip out without the long goodbye. To everyone else, it looks rude, arrogant, sneaky, like you think you are too good for the room. But inside, there is no superiority in it at all. There is only a sudden need to get out before your nervous system crashes. That is the part people miss. They see a person leaving early. They do not see the social wall that dropped inside that person 5 minutes earlier. Because for some people, exhaustion at a gathering does not arrive politely. It does not build in a slow, graceful line. It drops. 1 minute they are present enough to keep going. The next minute, every extra sound feels sharper. Every face takes more effort to read. Every response starts costing more than it should. Nothing dramatic happened. Nobody said the wrong thing. The system just reached capacity. And when that happens, the goodbye becomes the hardest part of the night. Not the party itself, the exit. Because leaving is not just leaving when you are already overloaded. It is one more conversation, one more explanation, one more moment of keeping your face warm, your tone gentle, your answer reassuring. It is someone laughing and pulling you back in. It is the host asking if everything is okay. It is another person starting a story right when your hand reaches for your bag. It is having to make other people feel comfortable about your limit while you are already past it. That is why some people disappear instead of performing the full farewell ritual. Not because they do not care, because they cannot regulate one more interaction without tipping over. You can hear the misunderstanding forming in real time. They left without saying goodbye. That was weird. That was cold. That was disrespectful. But what often looks cold from the outside is actually a body in acute overload. What looks dismissive is sometimes just depleted. What looks like avoidance can be a last-minute attempt to recover before the whole night turns into a private internal panic. If this is you, you probably know the exact feeling. You are still in the room, but your body is already gone. Your smile starts feeling mechanical. Your answers get shorter. You stop wanting to be perceived. You stop wanting to manage anyone's reaction. You stop wanting to be reachable for even 5 more minutes. That last part matters more than most people realize. A lot of social exhaustion is not just about noise. It is about access. About being accessible for too long. Being looked at, spoken to, read, responded to, leaned on, and subtly pulled from multiple directions for longer than your system can comfortably handle. Some people do not get tired because they hate connection. They get tired because connection, in extended doses, becomes expensive. It starts demanding more regulation than the body has left to give. So the exit starts feeling urgent. Not dramatic, urgent. You want the door. You want the hallway. You want the car. You want the silence that begins the second nobody needs anything from your face anymore. And when you finally get there, the relief is immediate. That is one of the clearest signs that this was not arrogance. If the first feeling after leaving is relief, not pride, then the behavior was probably never about thinking you were above anyone. It was about getting your nervous system out of a situation it could no longer process cleanly. That is why this pattern often confuses the person doing it too. Because you can like the people in the room and still need to escape them. You can enjoy the night and still hit a wall inside it. You can want connection and still feel panic at the thought of one more goodbye. That contradiction makes more sense when you look at the kind of person this often happens to. Usually, this is not the person who was emotionally checked out all night. It is often the person who was tracking everything. The one who noticed tension first. The one who knew who was uncomfortable. The one who kept participating after they were already tired. The one who stayed readable, pleasant, and easy to be around long past the point where their internal energy started dropping. In other words, the quiet exit often comes from someone who stayed open too long. That is why the crash can look so sudden. The limit was not sudden. It was delayed. They had been pushing past signals for the last hour. Maybe longer. They were already doing the thing they learned to do years ago. Stay warm, stay easy, stay available, keep the atmosphere smooth. Do not make your limit other people's problem. And then, right at the end, the body refuses to cooperate anymore. That is the deeper pattern underneath this behavior. Many people who slip out without explaining are not careless with feelings. They are overloaded by them. They spend too much energy reading the room, softening edges, responding correctly, managing tone, keeping things comfortable. That kind of attunement can look like social ease from the outside, but internally, it creates a huge energy cost. Over time, the nervous system learns a blunt form of self-protection. Leave fast when the limit hits, because if you stay, you will keep overriding yourself. And there is research behind the basic shape of that experience. When the brain has spent too long monitoring social cues and managing emotional input, stress load rises, and simple interaction can start to feel like pressure instead of connection. That shift is small at first, then suddenly it is not small at all. Now bring that back to the moment at the door, because this is where people usually describe the behavior wrong. They think the person leaving early is rejecting the group, but often the person is not trying to reject anyone. They are trying to stop the feeling of being accessed beyond capacity. That is the real pressure point. The room is still talking. Someone is still smiling at you. Someone is asking where you are going. Someone is expecting one more warm response, and your system is already flashing the same message over and over. Enough, enough, enough. Not because you hate people, not because you hate closeness, because you cannot stay open any longer without paying for it hard. This is the climax people around you never see. They do not see how unbearable the goodbye can become once your body starts reading one more conversation as one demand too many. They do not see how quickly politeness can begin to feel like entrapment when your internal resources are gone. They do not see that by the time you slip out, you are not choosing between a polite exit and a rude one. You are choosing between leaving now or having your whole system spill over in public. That is why the escape can feel so clean. Door, air, silence, relief. Then, a few minutes later, the guilt shows up. Because now you can think again. Now you know how it looked. Now you know someone probably noticed. And this is where the pattern starts costing you something real. People cannot respond to the overload they never saw. They respond to the absence they did see. So if this becomes your only strategy, they start building a version of you around the exit. The one who disappears. The one who is hard to reach. The one who leaves without explanation. And over time, a nervous system strategy can harden into a social identity. That is why this pattern deserves accuracy, not romance. Yes, the overload is real. Yes, the relief is real. Yes, slipping out may have been the only thing your body could do in that moment, but it is still worth noticing when recovery turns into your only form of control. Because there is a difference between protecting your peace and disappearing so often that people stop expecting your presence at all. So return to the truth of the behavior. Some people leave early without explaining because they do not care enough to stay. And some leave because they cared, adjusted, monitored, answered, and stayed open for longer than their nervous system could safely hold. Those are not the same thing. What looks like coldness is often overload reaching its final limit. And what looks like a quiet disappearance is sometimes just a human being trying to get out a few minutes before their whole system shuts down.